Let's go.
Hello, hello. Welcome to another get together between Errol and me, Thomas. We're your hosts, and I don't know what we're going to discuss today, but how's it been, Errol?
Good. I was explaining to Thomas that I got sick pretty badly.
Mm,
Uh TLDR, suddenly had to sit down, head was spinning. I had a massive sore throat that would kill me every time I swallowed anything, and I
yeah.
had a dry mouth, which was which was a lot of fun because on one
Huh.
hand I'm supposed to drink a lot of water, but on the other, every time I take a drink, my throat just burns. So it's a great balance. Um So was doing all of that, battling that, went to the doctor. Doctor had no idea what was going on. Went to another doctor. Doctor also didn't know what was going on, but said fuck it and gave me steroids. So I'm all roided up. I don't have the rage just yet, but I feel myself getting massive.
Mm,
So I can give you guys an update for next week once I hit the gym again. See how much I can bench now.
yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger level, you're gonna go like nothing.
Oh yeah, dude, yeah, I haven't been to the gym in like a week and a half now, but with these steroids, I know I'm more than caught up. You know, we are already like I feel myself just.
Mm,
So I'm good, man. But
okay. Yeah, it's
and
yeah.
I was just gonna say it's also getting warmer, which I'm very happy about here in the States.
Oh man, really? Like, what do you mean by warm though?
It's a nice 70 right now.
Oh,
Ooh.
that's nothing. Dude, it's so hot here in Thailand right now. And then it's starting to rain really rapidly. So on Monday, like the power went off for like 6 hours
Ooh.
and it was like 100 degrees, no AC, no nothing. No AC, no nothing. And it's like no internet, no nothing. So you just kind of sit there. I laid on my floor and just like it was the night, right? And it was raining like crazy. And you would think the rain would like lower the temperature. No, it didn't. It's just hot. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I can't imagine that, man. Like I'm slowly realizing maybe I'm just getting older, but I'm like I no longer like it if it's past like 80 degrees. You know?
Mm.
Like I really just can't take it. I'm just so against it. I don't even like it if it's like at the beach. It's just like I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna have like a heat stroke.
You know
I
what's,
just
yeah, it's kind of weird because my mom, I think she takes the opposite approach. So I'm sure you remembered those days when we had Hurricane Sandy and it was like really cold and all that stuff, right?
yes, when it hit the East Coast here, yeah.
Yeah. So ever since then, my mom is like always been adamant that she never wants to be in like a cold environment. She loves the hot weather. And she, she's from like Brunei, right? So this is what she grew up on, like hot weather. But for me, I'm a November type of person, right? And that to me is like, obviously there's a lot of holidays, but it's also the weather. The weather is so nice in November, in my opinion. It's like the
Mm.
perfect time where it's not too cold compared to like December. And it's not, I feel like October, it's cool, but it's not the ideal. Like November, for whatever reason, hits that perfect temperature.
I can see that. I can see that. It's
Yeah.
also has like the nice colors of the leaves.
Yeah.
It's a good vibe. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, yeah, I know how much you like November, and we've had our talk about it.
Yes.
But it's
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Yeah.
good time.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, what do we want to talk about? What's been going on these days in the news?
In the news? Wait, what do you
In,
just say?
in the news, what's been going on in the world recently?
Well, Elon just kind of stepped down from Twitter, right?
Oh yes. How much do you know about that?
I don't know too much about it. There's also been like unfortunately a shooting, right? Like in Texas, or was that last week? But I know there's a continuation of that story, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of other things. Yeah, but we can talk about the Elon thing. I don't know too much about it. Do you know a lot?
I know that he basically said he's gonna be transitioning to CTO
Mm,
product now.
mm,
And they're taking in the one woman from NBC.
right, right, right.
I don't know her name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Let me see because I want to make sure. Linda Yaccarino.
probably
Not
butchered the name in one way or another, but
I, yeah, dude. It is what it is. And apparently a lot of people aren't too big of a fan of her,
mm, I think
which
it's
is very
hard being put in that situation. Like, no matter what, you could be the poster child, right? And even then, like, I feel ever since Elon went into this thing, like, his fan base has now been shattered in more ways than none, right? Like,
yeah.
so it's like whoever is in that situation, there's no like instance where you would please everyone being Twitter's CEO, to be honest.
Oh yeah. It's interesting too because I think the people that are really in love with Twitter right now are the people who are in love with Elon Musk. And now you have
Yeah.
him stepping away and bringing in this now outsider. Because at the end of the day, it is like an outsider, right? To the whole fan base, people who
Yeah.
love Twitter. And I mean, I'm just quickly just reading up a few blurbs here. But yeah, it looks like she's coming in really because of her expertise, because of partnerships, because
Mhm.
that's what she's doing at NBC,
Yeah.
doing advertising for them. So now she's coming in as more of a strategic business pick to actually say, hey, all of the brands, you guys all getting off Twitter. We're bringing in this new CEO who's so focused is going to be about advertising, having partnerships, bringing back all these brands. So
Mm.
I think it's a good move for Twitter, but I mean I'm not too sure. I mean Twitter's no longer publicly traded, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think it really matters what anyone else thinks publicly, as long as people still go to Twitter, which I think they still will. I think people still want to voice their opinions because,
Yeah.
their opinions matter, apparently.
It's very interesting because as a dev sort of person, right? I feel like the community for devs is especially rich on Twitter. Like, I don't really go and touch the political aspects of Twitter. Anytime I go to Twitter, my feed is mostly like from these other developers that are really cool at what they're like doing stuff, right? Like Rich Harris with Svelte or Theo from Ping, right? Like I'm pretty sure like these are very common names or Primogen, right? Like it's very, very kind of clear what my feed is all about. But there's a lot of like people that moved off of Twitter, and there's still like competitors that are now like taking up a space, like Dark Sky, and then the other, I forgot the other name, right? But like, do you feel that that is a valid thing? Like, do you think Twitter will still maintain its position given that there's more competition doing what they do?
Um, that's interesting because I don't think they will. I think that I really want to talk to people who actively use Twitter because I
Hmm.
haven't really met anyone who does.
Yeah.
And like I go on occasionally just to see like what's trending, what's going on. Like, tell me what's going in the news. Political, like I do go on for politics sometimes,
Right.
but I also go on to do a lot of the more developing things that you just mentioned too. Like I follow a lot of developers, lots of people in the React community, Facebook, Google. Like I follow a lot of people in the bigger companies,
Yeah.
just like really like okay, like what tech are they working on, as well as a few startups. But I don't really tweet anything. So I mean, I'm not somebody who would really go away from Twitter, but
Hmm.
I'm not like a super super active person. So I'm curious to see what people who actively tweet, who actively engage with the audiences, or maybe they engage with just like other people. I really want to know like what their thoughts are, which I'm not that audience, but I would say yeah, for me, maybe I think maybe Twitter is gonna start to lose their share. I
Hmm.
don't think they're gonna hold the dominance.
Yeah, Elon has been like proposing or been using the same words for this quite a like frequent amount. So usually there's like set metrics for a SaaS company and how it can succeed, right? Especially for like these social media types of apps. It's really about daily active users that come
Yeah.
to the platform every day and use it very frequently. But obviously he's now focusing on like something, I forgot the exact phrase, but it's like daily enjoyable minutes or something like that, right? Like the actual time that you spent on Twitter is worthwhile. Do you think that metric was like a shift, like that makes you kind of be like the way you are in terms of how to deal with Twitter? Because like they're not pushing for you to try to get onto the platform every day, from what it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I this is the first time I've heard of this new metric, so I'm not obviously too familiar with like its ins and outs. But it's if they are pushing this new metric, the biggest red flag for me is like, okay, the initial metrics are going to shit so quickly that they
Yeah.
now have to like, to define like a new metric about what success is. That's
Hmm.
immediately like the biggest red flag I have. And so I'm not too sure about it, but what exactly is it? What is an enjoyable minute?
So it's
Do you know?
basically like he proposes that when you go on Twitter, like the old Twitter, there was so many bots, so much like noise that you kind of leave Twitter with a very like terrible experience, or you have negative like feelings after using the app because your time was not spent learning or doing something like where you can feel good, right? And
Mm,
he went on to say that all social media apps has that issue, that like people that go on Twitter, sorry, go on TikTok, for example, like come off like I don't know 3 hours afterward and are like not happy with themselves. So he
yeah,
said that the type of metrics they want to shoot for is like something where if you go on it, you're happy, you come out of it learning something or whatever, like something that is more informative or something that is more like useful,
yeah.
you know?
But come on, like, how are you gonna measure that though? Are you gonna ask people are they happy every now and then? Like, are you gonna ask them if they've learned something new from using your app? Like, I don't think that's very attainable.
Well, all of his tangents of like the strategy to the product has kind of like been around that thesis. So, okay, how do we make it like a more of a town hall, or how do we have it such that um the algorithm is like now open source, right? Or like, for example, it kind of cutting down on the bots because those are that's his hypothesis on what's creating like the downfall of Twitter. But then, like as you said, correspondingly, because you don't have like daily active users, I mean, just off that alone, on top of other things like politics aside, like I can see why an advertiser would try to move out of the platform, because it's like, wait, if all my dollars are being spent here and like the users I'm trying to target don't even come here every day, the value
Yeah,
is less just by that alone, right? Because I don't get as much awareness.
right. Mm. But would how difficult would it be to now appease these new advertisers coming in, or even like the old advertisers who are coming back? How would you really please them with these new metrics? How can you explain to them that these are the metrics you should care about? How do you say like, yeah, this old way of saying your daily active users, your monthly active users aren't really the best way of gauging how successful you guys are, how much money you should spend on your brand campaign. You should instead look at these new metrics. How can you like have that shift for all these advertisers? And is it even possible to shift their mindsets?
I think the reality is just from the fact that they had to get a new CEO, and all of this shows that it's an unachievable goal, or rather, it's not a goal that everyone that is involved with Twitter or has a financial interest in Twitter supports, right? That's why they go to other social medias, because it's more known. There is a trend, or rather a stereotype, that like marketers obviously won't go onto a platform when it's too new because they need to scope out like how much money can you even make, right? But I feel like because he's reinventing everything from the ground up, right? Treating it like a startup, all of the original customers for Twitter, if they don't have a reason to leave from politics, this is the direct reason to leave. Like you're not going to make as much.
But then that's the one thing is like you're saying like he's treating it like a startup. He's doing something new, but yeah, he brings in
Yeah.
a CEO who's been doing brand
Right.
partnerships,
So maybe there's
branding.
going to be a retweak arrow, like that the metrics go back to the old, but then
Yeah,
he's not going to be the scapegoat where he's like shitting on his own word. It's more like the CEO that is in charge now. It's just like, this isn't working. We're not making money. So we have to move back to the original.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Like I think the whole Elon Musk Twitter takeover, I think it sounds good in theory, and I think it's honestly I love that it happened. It exposed a lot of different things with going on with Twitter, how biased they are,
Yeah.
how maybe like it'll manage their run too, seeing how they fired like what, like maybe like 60-70% of their staff
Yeah.
still working. I think it's good that he took it over, but I don't think I don't think he really is going to be successful in what he strives for, which is making Twitter a successful town hall where people can engage, where people can express their opinions without any fear of backlash. I
Mhm.
don't think, or necessary backlash, I should say. I don't think it's. I just think this entire Twitter saga is gonna be over relatively quickly, and we're gonna be going back to its old ways of how Twitter was run, how it was operated, who was on Twitter. I think it's just over, but it was a strong attempt, and I'm
Yeah,
glad
I
it
don't
happened.
know. I think again, when you're at the top of the world, I don't want to like say that Elon Musk is like dumb. He's certainly not. But I think this ties into what we were talking about like last week or a previous talk where like overextending yourself um
Yeah.
starts to become like there is a limit, right? Like you can do several startups if you are really like, I don't know, have a really great team and a lot of things align for you. But I feel like obviously the shift from Tesla and SpaceX to a more social media platform is a very like side shifted, reason to even go like in direction. Like it doesn't even make it's not a hard industry, right? It's not a thing where you're making something tangible. So I feel like the parameters to even like define success in that is much harder. And
Mhm.
for him, it's like I don't know why he even made the decision, to be honest. I feel like given that there are still things to be done, I still look at it as like recently SpaceX has had a lot of great like launches and successes. Like they did do some new launches, right, to test for I don't remember the expect specific names of the flights, but they did some tests and it did well, right? It did above what they were expecting. And then Tesla is still rolling out stuff, but I still see it as like they're still missing like Cybertruck. They're still missing a lot of other like pre-ordered promises that they have made,
Oh yeah. Whatever
right?
happened to that? I forgot about Cybertruck.
Yeah, it's been like so long, right? And then like the reality is if he's very gung-ho about one vision, which is to get to Mars, right? This is like a whole fiasco that just obviously would derail that focus, right? So
Yeah.
it's always like, and I just kind of get this sense that most of like Elon's day nowadays is just like managing bullshit from Twitter. And at the end of the day, like if you really look at last month to this month, like sure, you're maybe affecting how we communicate as a society, but this is not the expansionary visionary, oh, we're going to like be an extra terrestrial species that like transcends the stars sort of message. Like you can never with Twitter be like on that level of like holy crap, this is a cool vision to even like abide to or even want to wish for.
So do you think it would be more beneficial to, I don't want to say humanity as a whole, but do you think it would be more beneficial to protect to maybe Elon Musk's mission of going, to Mars, living on more than one planet? I forgot what that exact word is, the
Yeah.
terminology. Yeah, like would you say that it would be benefit just to focus on SpaceX and making that vision true and kind of drop Tesla, drop Twitter, drops Green City, I think it is, or Solar City? Do you think that he should just focus on one vision instead and just really go all out gung ho about that?
So I looked at it as there's mutual things within Tesla that work well with SpaceX. I think that some of the, supposed theories that he does this thing and does that thing, this venture and that venture, they all kind of live within a certain universe of things that kind of bond well together. Like, oh, the battery science that we understand from Tesla can suddenly be used for rockets. You know what I mean? It's like kind of starts to make sense, right? Where there's some tangent overlaps, but I feel like Twitter is such a like left field thing that it wasn't, right? It's a SaaS company that at the end of the day, you're just texting characters on a screen. And if you did it versus you didn't do it, the next day would not butterfly out so drastically where your influence is going to be like so drastic, right? Like the
Mm.
amount of change that society can get out of a Twitter versus success at a Tesla or a SpaceX is on a like magnitude different, in my humble opinion.
I
Yeah.
agree. And that's why like I don't know, like I'm not like the biggest fan of what he's doing with Twitter, but once again, I applaud his effort. I like what he was trying to do. It's but it's still I don't think it's where the highest priorities should be. But of course, it's his money, it's his life, could do whatever. What
Yeah.
would be really funny though is if he's just like, fuck it, Twitter didn't work out. Let me try to buy another SaaS company. Let me try to buy Tinder.
Yeah.
You know, let's
I
just
mean, he's
let me
also he's
try.
also making like comments that he's going to start another like AI company to compete against OpenAI. I just kind of get the sense that like, look, the poster child of Elon Musk, the image that I certainly see as like the top model was when he was in the trenches working every day on Tesla, like nighttime, right? Like sleeping in the factory, trying to get something that like changes the world out. And now everyone in the car manufacturing space is trying to figure out how do we get to EV, right? Like it's kind of like you want that visionary aspect of like this is going to affect society on a magnitude where most people, if not everyone, is going to start using something. And it's going to create more benefits to potentially our environmental factors or environmental impact, or if it's like we're going to Mars or we're going to another place, is to expand like our influence on the galaxy, right? Like it's it's kind of the same points that those types of dreams they live big, but they also like have tangible things when even if you make a milestone where you're like, oh, we're just getting a rocket up running. It doesn't have to go to Mars on the first day. Test Twitter has to be successful on day one. That's the thing, right? When it starts to act like a startup, which it is right now, you have financial problems because all these advertisers are pulling out. And like, why should you even appeal to advertisers um when like visions that you have also supported as Elon Musk, right? Like if you're that guy, like I would just be like, screw all this. This is so much work. I'd rather just go back to like making cars for the future or like getting us to another planet, right? Like those are
Yeah,
way cooler things. Like
yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know what it is. I really think that like once I don't know, maybe he just got bored. Maybe it's like building something new from the ground, not from the ground up, but just building something new from something that is perceived as kind of shitty to
Mm,
now something potentially revolutionary. I think that's where his sweet spot is, and he did it with Tesla. He did it with Solar City, if I'm not mistaken. SpaceX, I'm not. I think he just bought. He got
yeah.
up from the ground up, but I think that's where he really enjoys working. And I think a lot of people who build companies, a lot of them are like that, where it's like once you actually reach a certain size, sure, like your goals, your ambitions, what you want to do in terms of, like revolutionizing whatever space you're in, whether it's electric vehicles, whether it's now colonizing Mars. I feel like that mission is still there. But for a lot of the people who possibly like spearheaded that vision, they feel maybe it's no longer the same as when they had to hustle much more to at least make the company survive. And that's like a very common thing of a lot of people who build just any sort of startup. And that's why most people who run the biggest companies today aren't actually the founders. It's people who are brought in much later on. And you can see that with Microsoft, Google, Amazon at this point too, right? Andy Jassy. And it's you see a lot of these owners no longer being the co-founders or no longer being the original founders, just because those people usually just end up getting, I don't want to say bored, but there has always been this notion that yeah, they love the build. They don't really love maintaining a massive company. Their skill set isn't really meant for that. And
So
maybe
there
that's the
is a
same.
conversion though, but I don't know. Like I understand what you're getting at, but at the same time, I see it as like the vision of what a founder hopes to achieve has to be met before they start feeling like the company is a more managerial process. Like reality is it's very easy to say, okay, Twitter's built, I'm no longer needed here. And that's why Jack Dorsey's like, I'm gone. I'm going to another thing and building another thing, right? It's a totally
Which is
another thing when like he's saying, oh, I'm gonna build Twitter, and let's say like only half of Twitter is built, right? And then he goes and it's like, you know what, I'm done because I'm like, I don't want to even manage anything. Like that's how I see it for Mars. We're not at Mars yet. That's going to take like more decades, right? But if anything, like there's no sense of like, oh, if he just quits SpaceX tomorrow, like that makes any sense. So you have to put more focus on that to achieve that
yeah,
long-term vision because it's such a grand vision that it doesn't like you have realistically no other time.
yes.
And if you
That
think
is,
you do, then that means it wasn't as like you're not as focused on actually achieving that vision. It's just all talk. It's not real.
yeah, and that's the thing is like I mean I don't know any companies really out there besides SpaceX who has a vision that's literal decades in the future,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Like
Except for
all the other
OpenAI. OpenAI has something, right?
OpenAI, but all the other companies though, you can have a lot of success at different steps along that journey.
Hmm.
But Mars's mission is at the end of the day,
Like
yeah, we
yes
need
or
to,
no. Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
are we gonna like live there or not? And that's something that's a very far-reaching future. Like you
Right.
can immediately tell this shit's gonna take decades.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a very long time. But
Right.
now, if you want to say like, okay, our mission is to, convert the world into electric vehicles, that's also gonna take over to only using electric vehicles. That's also gonna take a very long time. But you
Mhm.
can see that, you're gonna be getting there. I don't know what it is right now in the world, but
Right.
electric vehicle sales are continuing to go up. And in some countries, like I think in Norway, they have, I think, 70% of all of
Yeah.
their vehicles being electric. So you already see this progress going on.
Right.
But then with cars, it's more binary. It's more like, yeah, yes or no. Are we getting there or not? And of course, there's
Right.
going to be a lot of progress, but it's not the same. It's not linear, I think, as something like selling a product, whether it's a physical product or, it's intangible.
Yeah.
And so it's actually very interesting. I don't think there's many companies like that besides SpaceX, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
but that's the thing. Maybe okay, I think your theory on like maybe he's getting bored might be like correct. Like it's just this monotonous grind of like doing this for decades, right? Or like mentally think about it. And it like technically already maybe a decade has gone by, right? For
Yeah,
these companies. So he needs something more fast paced. But then Twitter is so fast paced and so controversial that it's like all this
yeah.
work for nothing, really, right? Like it's no longer a snarky, oh, like 420 pulling out. It's more like you say that, and now you're gonna get like, court-martialed or like
Oh, yeah.
completely like, backfires way more than what it was before, right? Like Twitter's role or being a Twitter CEO is certainly going to be way more stressful because it's more polarizing than these visions of like, oh, we're going to Mars. Like who would say otherwise? Oh, that's a bad idea, right? Anyone in the like world should
Well,
have a theory of like, oh yeah, we should expand our consciousness. We should be looking to the stars. We should be going forward and doing something grand, right? Twitter is not the same. It has polarizing opinions. Like, should this thing even exist for some people, right?
yeah. I mean, there are some people who just want Twitter to be shut down.
Yeah. So,
That is true.
anyways, tying in this all together, it gives me a lot of thought process on how to maintain focus for my company. I'm sure for you it's the same deal. There's a limit to how much you can focus on things. And if the vision is so big, you
Yeah.
can't like just abandon it or put it halfway through because it takes time and getting that vision up is the responsibility of the founder. Only then can you say, okay, I give up if it's like you have the product out, right?
Yes. A SMART goal. Time attainable, I think is the T.
Time bound. Yeah.
Something I don't know what it is, man. Okay.
Anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. A is the attainable. Yeah, I just put two of them together. Anyways,
Yeah.
uh yeah, and it's a good point. And I think like it's something I have to give a lot more thought about in my own life too. So
Yeah. Anyways, we have less than a minute. I'll talk to you next week. This is a good talk. Yep.
yes, this has been a good week, and hopefully George can join us next week, and we can talk a little bit about Chem and how that launch has been going. Because I'm
Yep.
super curious. I want
Yep.
to know about.
All right.
So
See you, man.
until next time.
Yep. Bye.